screaming your name. Hope if
Well, I love it. This room gets quiet very quickly here. So I think before we start, if we could just make sure we shut the doors here on our two sides here. Thank you. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Meet the Finalists panel. My name is Jerome Davis, and I'm the Executive Vice President of the Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce, and I'm also the President of the Denver Metro Chamber Leadership Foundation. The Leadership Foundation believes in strengthening Colorado one leader at a time. And we make this happen by educating and inspiring people who want to make a difference as leaders in the community. And our track record speaks for itself. We've been at this business for close to 50 years. This includes our senior leadership team, which includes J.J. Ament, who is our CEO and President of the Denver Metro Chamber, and also Raymond Gonzalez, who is our EVP of the Denver Metro Chamber and also the President of the Metro Denver Economic Development Corporation. Today we have an opportunity to hear from three amazing individuals, great leaders who are visionary, strategic, and innovative. And best of all, they are making a difference in the community. For 24 years, the Denver Metro Chamber Leadership Foundation and 9 News have honored leaders in our community who have made significant contributions to the well-being and development of our state. And you know what that means? The 2023 9 News Leader of the Year will be the 25th honoree to receive this award, making this year that much more special. Now, choosing 3 finalists for this award is never an easy task. We receive so many inspiring applications from leaders who embody the Chamber's Colorado civic DNA: inclusivity, collaboration, shared vision, leadership, and responsibility. In the end, Elsa, Helen, and Venetia were selected as our 2023 finalists, and we're so thrilled for you to hear more about their leadership journeys today. Highlighting their stories will inspire Colorado's current and future leaders. But first, there are countless partners who make this award and our corresponding Leading Colorado Luncheon possible. First, our trustee members. As you see on the screen, we are so grateful for their all-in support of the mission work we do here at the Chamber. Thank you, of course, to 9 News for being our partner for so many years. This year is special as 9 News will be streaming live our event on 9news.com. So welcome to all the viewers that are online. We also want to thank a few key partners of our Leading Colorado Luncheon on March 9th, where the 9 News Leader of the Year will be revealed. The presenting sponsor for the Leading Colorado Luncheon is Huntington Bank. And we are so happy to have Joe Nimmons, who is the Colorado Regional President here for Huntington, to be represented here for the bank and to know the work they do. We really have valued the partnership we've had with them over the past couple of years. Our visionary sponsors, DaVita, Key Bank, and Molson Coors Beverage Company. And our galvanizing sponsors, Barefoot PR, Brownstein Hyatt Farber Schreck, University of Colorado Foundation, Delta Dental, Ground Floor Media, Motive Care, and Suncor. We hope you'll join us for this big event on March 9th. Please don't forget to register. And now, before we meet our 9 News Leader of the Year finalists, I'd like to introduce you to Tiffany Anderson, Senior Director of Programs and Strategic Initiatives at Betcher Foundation, to tell us more about this year's Student Leader of the Year candidates. You ask, what's the connection? Well, our Colorado Leadership Alliance program unites collegiate leadership programs from across Colorado to share best practices, learn about community issues, and inspire a new generation of leaders for Colorado. Please welcome Tiffany.
I get the best job, I think, every year, and it is my honor to be here to introduce you to our finalists of the Student Leader of the Year. In just a few minutes, I'm going to reveal the finalists, and that is then going to be very quickly culminate in me announcing the 2023 Student Leader of the Year. Sharing the stories of these young leaders is right in alignment with the mission of the Betcher Foundation as we really connect and then elevate the doers and difference makers across the state of Colorado. At Betcher, we believe in the promise of Colorado and the potential of Coloradans. That's because we believe that courageous leadership benefits every community in the state of Colorado. By investing in individuals and programs and organizations, we are laying the foundation for transformational impact and community building across our state. We are proud to partner with the Leadership Foundation each year in helping to sponsor the Student Leader of the Year, and every one of you really exemplified the 4 characteristics that we were looking for. And those were academic excellence, so they're already real smart. If you haven't met them, you need to. They are extraordinary leaders on their campuses, in their campus communities, and beyond, so they're already doing that work. They have a servant's heart. Every one of you is extraordinary and absolutely exude outstanding character. So thank you for being who you are and representing your campuses, the community, the foundation, and Colorado well. We know that your undergraduate years are critical in helping you to develop your leadership style and your confidence. And my hope is this has set you on your leadership journey. So that civic-minded nature that I see in each one of you is just the start of your serving the state of Colorado for generations to come. We have 3 of our 4 finalists here today. So I'm going to have you guys stand as I say your names, all right? We have Gabriel Trujillo. Megan Hager. And Michaela Lurch. We also have Kevin Velasco as our 4th finalist. Unfortunately, he was not able to make it. At that, I'm going to let each one of them tell us a little bit about themselves.
Hello, my name is Michaela Lurch, and I am a senior at Colorado State University Pueblo, and I am a social work major. I thought it would only be fitting for me to talk about what inspires me under one of my most inspirational quotes that I have in my office: create your own sunshine. I am always inspired by a person's ability to make the most out of hardships, find the positives and the negatives, and turn failures into lessons to push you further into your ambitions for the future. I think everything happens for a reason, and it's always so inspiring to see people make the most out of their situation. And that's what inspires me. Thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Kevin Daniel Velasco. I am a senior, so I'll be graduating here in May, and I'm a part of the Chancellor's Leadership class with the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. I currently study economics and political science, and I hope to be pursuing an MPA program next year with an emphasis in economic development. I hope to get involved in the public service sector for my career in the future, and I hope to one day give back to my community. I've often thought a lot about the question, what inspires me? Oftentimes I've struggled with it myself, to be honest. Sometimes I've struggled with not necessarily recognizing what drives me or what pushes me to keep going forward. But it's at those times when I'm feeling down, when I get to sit down with other individuals and I get to hear their story, when I get to hear what they've been going through, their identity, their goals and their pursuits and initiatives, and most importantly, their challenges and adversities. Because challenges and adversity aren't isolated to one individual. But when we as individuals go to another one or go to another person and share what we're going through and look out for collaboration and cohesiveness within the community structure, we're able to change problems and solve issues and dilemmas that we once thought were unsolvable. So I think that's what inspires me, having the ability to hear what other individuals are going through and having the opportunity to help them. Cohesiveness, collaboration, and community building is what truly inspires me. So thank y'all for listening.
My name is Megan Hager. I'm a third-year undergraduate at Colorado State University. I'm a double major in biomedical science and cognitive and behavioral neuroscience. I'm inspired by my mother, who is a first-generation Korean immigrant. She sacrificed so much to give me and my brother a better life. I am grateful for her and inspired by her every day, and I would not be here today without her support.
Hello everybody, my name is Gabe Trujillo, my pronouns are he, him, his. I am a junior at MSU Denver studying psychology and Spanish, and I find inspiration every day from so many great places. One of those is my mom. She was a single immigrant mother who raised my 3 brothers and I on her own with such great love and strength. Next is Roy Montgomery, my Urban Leadership Program Director at MSU Denver. He has served as such a huge mentor for me and shown me the importance of leading with authenticity, integrity, and compassion. And lastly, I find inspiration from all the moments of human kindness that I see every single day. Thank you.
Okay, so the interviews were fun, but that was hard. Those are extraordinary humans. If you have not met the 3 of them that are here, please make sure you introduce yourself. They're aspiring leaders in medicine and mental health, legal and higher ed, and health equity. So those are their passions. If you have connections in any of those spaces, please make sure you introduce yourselves. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I have to announce one winner for 2023. So it is now time to introduce you to the honoree. The 2023 Student Leader of the Year is actually Kevin Velasco. Unfortunately, Kevin can't be with us today, but he will be speaking on March 9th at the Leading Colorado Luncheon, which only means you get more excited as you wait to hear from him. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jerome for our 9 News Leader of the Year panelists. Thank you so much.
Let's have all of our finalists stand up one more time and just give them a really warm welcome. Thanks, Tiffany, and congratulations to Kevin. And now I'm honored to introduce the moderator of today's panel, 9 News anchor, Alexandra Lewis. Let's please give her a warm welcome.
Hi. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'm so honored to be a part of this event. You know, I hosted the panel last year of the finalists, and when Jesse Ogos asked me to be a part of it again this year, it was a no-brainer. I said, absolutely, when and where, because I remember leaving this day feeling so inspired. Like, I thought I gave back, right? I thought I made my mark in the community, but I just felt like, gosh, there's just such a push to do more, to use my skill set to impact the community. I mean, just a fraction, a molecule of what you'll find these finalists dedicate their entire lives to do. So that is my hope for all of you in the audience, that you connect, everybody watching at home, you connect with these incredible women, you vote, and you yourself are inspired. So without further ado, it is my honor to welcome the panelists to their seats. We will start with Elsa Okeem. Elsa is a visionary servant leader and the president and CEO of the Denver Preschool Program, which champions, funds, and increases access to quality preschool across our community. Elsa grew up in a small town of Chihuahua, Mexico, and immigrated to the U.S. with her family when she was just 17. She learned English while attending high school and college in Denver, where she worked as an intern in the nonprofit sector. That internship eventually led her to the Women's Foundation of Colorado, and then to the Rose Community Foundation, where she served as the Senior Program Officer for Child and Family Development for 21 years. Elsa has played an instrumental role in the creation of Early Milestones Colorado, the Latino Community Foundation of Colorado, the Denver Opportunity Youth Initiative, Colorado's Office of Early Childhood, Borealis Philanthropy, and the Skills to Compete Coalition. Welcome. Next is Helen Young Hayes. Helen is a bold and decisive leader and the founder of and CEO of Activate Work. The daughter of Chinese immigrants, Helen is a believer in the American dream, but knows this dream has become out of reach for so many. At Activate Work, she works to bridge the gap between individual potential and real-life success by matching and placing individuals into self-sustaining careers and through intensive coaching of personal, professional, and financial skills. Helen is also the author and executive sponsor of the Colorado Inclusive Economy Movement, a CEO-led movement to build a community of shared opportunity and prosperity. Welcome. Last but not least, welcome Venetia Kerr. Venetia is a compassionate community leader and the Chief Impact Officer at Mile High United Way, where she leads the organization's program, strategy, and investments. Before entering the nonprofit sector in 2011, Venetia spent over 20 years in corporate management. Her extensive experience includes serving as the Regional Director of Community Affairs and Corporate Citizenship for TIAA-CREF, where she was responsible for developing and overseeing the strategy and implementation of the community outreach activities for over 20 offices. She is the recipient of numerous certificates and honors throughout her career, including being recognized as one of the top 25 most powerful women by the Colorado Women's Chamber of Commerce and Girl Scouts Denver Metro Women of Distinction. In 2014, she was appointed by Governor John Hickenlooper to serve on the Colorado Commission on Higher Education. Welcome. Have a seat. You guys just feel comfortable. This is a conversation, and we just want to know a little bit more about you. You know, as I'm looking at your incredible faces, I've read your bios. I can't imagine the obstacles and the things that you all have gone through personally, professionally, to be in these seats right here. So I want you to go back a little bit, dig deep. Think about one moment in your personal lives, your professional lives, that really helped shape the leader that you are sitting in front of us today. You want to start?
Okay. One moment that really shaped me as the leader that I am is growing up the daughter of Chinese immigrants whose families had lost everything and become refugees during World War II. My family came to this country on borrowed money and on full scholarship and started our family over again in 1965 in Starkville, Mississippi, small college town, very, very segregated, very troubled with the civil rights movement. And so it was the combination of growing up in a family that was led by two immigrants who never lost their spirit of optimism and hope for the future, that they can actually change the future for themselves and those around them. And also growing up with the tremendous inequity that I witnessed and experienced in Mississippi in the 60s and the 70s, which made me a lifelong champion of those who are on the margins looking in.
Awesome. Venetia, what about you?
Yeah, thank you for that question. One of the things that I would say was really a moment for me probably has to do with my mother, who was so inspiring for me. My mom and my dad both were individuals that were part of the Great Migration from the South to the North back in the early 60s. And both of them really were looking for more opportunity. So there's definitely that theme there of coming from the South and then going to the North. And my parents were also ones where they really wanted to see, for me, education as a key pivotal piece that would allow me to achieve anything that I wanted to in terms of my dreams. They did not go to college, but they did have certificates that allowed us to have a great life in New York. But one of the things that happened was that my mom would always tell me that there was 4 graduations that she was going to. And so I knew from the very, very young, when I was in kindergarten, she would say, that's the first graduation. Now I have 3 more that I'm going to attend. So it was very clear. And then there was 8th grade graduation back then. And then she told me, okay, now I have 2 more graduations that I'm going to attend. And then when I graduated from high school, 1 more graduation. And of course, I ended up getting my bachelor's degree and then going on and getting my master's degree. But what that did for me was to demonstrate like the importance of education. And there are times when I look back today and wonder, like, what would my life have been like without them really pushing me towards education. I never knew that people could stop after high school. I thought everybody went on to college because that's all I knew in my household. But I noticed that that was not true for many in my family. And I know that my life is different because of what they instilled in me in terms of the importance of education. And it's one of the things that I am tremendously committed to today, is to make sure that everyone has that opportunity to get the education that they want and dream of so that they can realize their true potential.
Your mom was ecstatic about that 5th graduation, right? Elsa, what sticks out in your mind?
Yeah, so you told us to go back. That the same way that every child is born ready to learn, every child is born ready to lead. And I grew up in Mexico with a family of teachers. My aunts were teachers, my relatives were teachers, and I had the opportunity to attend preschool. So I was very lucky because it got me on the path to education. So I think you will see the theme that is here. And I learned very, very early in life that teaching is leader. Teaching is leading. Teaching is going to be that place where you can help others get to the next level. And I learned, my dad was a construction foreman in Mexico. And he was brilliant. He attended school, I think he went to 2nd grade. So he learned how to read blueprints, he knew how to manage budgets and do all this work on his own. And he was called El Maestro, which means the teacher, the master of the craft. And he was leading, 300, 500 people that were working for him, and he was called the maestro, not the boss, El Maestro. And I learned early on that was the opportunity to say this elevating other people is how you really have the opportunity to help others and elevate yourself. So because of that, I had a strong foundation to come to another country and get a degree in finance, even though I had to take accounting classes with a dictionary because I was still learning English to figure it out. But by the time I got my finance degree, I knew that I could put it to use immediately. So I turned around, and the turning point for me was to go and start the Business Center for Women at KUSA, where it's still in business. 35 years ago, it was a dream and something that people would say was not possible. How can a nonprofit teach women how to start businesses? And they did. So many years later, I learned by teaching women how to start their own businesses that was a way to be a leader and to lead.
I love you say every child is born to lead. That is so powerful. Yeah. Helen, I want to ask you, Colorado is such a unique place for so many beautiful reasons, but every community has its own set of challenges. How have you kind of carved out what the specific communities you work with need, and then what does that require for you specifically as a leader to address those challenges?
I think that the most pressing issue that we have, and we have many in Colorado, I believe the most pressing issue is inequity. And the inequity that I believe most needs to be solved really is threefold. The first is educational inequity and the access of quality education for Coloradans. We have only 30% of Coloradans who will get a college degree. And yet we have 77% of the top paying jobs in Colorado require those same post-secondary degrees or credentials. So we have a mismatch between what life-sustaining, family-sustaining careers need and want, which is a degree or credential, and those in Colorado who are achieving those, especially people of color, immigrant and refugee communities, and other underserved communities. So educational inequity is, in my opinion, the foundation and the first inequity that really must be addressed. The second inequity that really stems from educational inequity is really economic inequity. And so what we have as a result of the lack of credentialing and training and education for Coloradans is profound differences in the experience of poverty, in lower employment rates, in lower income rates, in lower earnings rates, in much, much lower wealth creation rates for those underserved populations. And we are the 12th most prosperous state.
Yep.
in the nation, but we rank 37th for the way we bring along households of color. This should not happen in Colorado. And so closing the economic gaps, closing the income gaps is, I believe, the second and pressing inequity that we must address and that we must together fix in the state of Colorado. And then the third inequity is something that is not often talked about. But the third inequity, in my opinion, is the lack of access to great jobs, employment opportunities, and the social capital that is required to even know how to get the job, access those quality jobs, have the know-how or get the connections to make those bridges. So those are the three inequities that I believe are pressing and that we are solving at Activate Work. So at Activate Work, which I founded in 2016, we provide three essential opportunities for Coloradans. The first is we provide rigorous, free IT training and credentialing in boot camp settings whereby Coloradans can, in the span of 12 or 15 weeks, essentially acquire the post-secondary skills that the industry is requiring of them and giving these educational opportunities to Coloradans at no charge to them. What we're also providing in terms of addressing economic inequity is each of our learners is experiencing more than a doubling of their income. And so our average learner, our average learner was making less than $20,000 before training. They're making $46,000 after training. And so we are helping bridge that economic gap. And finally, what we're providing is that all-important social capital, the access to employment, the access to employers, those connections. And so we bring employers and their jobs to our learners so that those matches are made right there for our learners and they are accessing the opportunities that so many of us take for granted. So that's what we're doing to address inequity.
That is incredible. I have a question. Did you find it difficult to find a seat at the table, or did you have to carve out your own place, being, an Asian American woman, represented such a small sector here in Colorado? Was that a challenge for you?
Are you asking if it was a challenge in terms of starting a nonprofit?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, it's been so hard, I have to say.
I bet.
There's been nothing that's been easy about this journey. But first of all, when you identify a problem, it takes a lot of courage to actually think that you can make a difference and want to tackle something so big like helping people move from economic struggle to economic freedom. That sounds so big and daunting that I was almost my worst enemy, and I didn't know if I had the courage to do it. But I am also an impatient person, and I saw the persistent inequity and the lack of economic mobility, and I thought, okay, so where's Superman? Where's Superwoman? Where are they? And no one was like coming down the hill, on a horse and changing things. And I actually thought, well, maybe I can build a better mousetrap. So I quieted my own doubts and then thought, you know what? I'm going to start serving people one person, one life at a time, and just giving them the opportunities that would be transformational for them. So I was my own worst enemy at first, and then developing, though, the courage to believe that I can actually impact something that is really profound for thousands of Coloradans. Secondly, though, really sort of dispelling the notion that low income equals low quality. There is that notion, and that is the biggest bias that I'm trying to dispel, which is low income equals low quality. I believe that our Coloradans are asset rich. They're so talented, and my goal and my secret superpower is really spotting hidden potential and then watching that potential just become realized. So, but dispelling the notion and the bias that exists in the world around us was the second thing that made what we're doing really difficult.
And necessary.
Elsa,
working in a space with children, with our babies, I mean, that is such admirable work, but that is going to bring its own challenges. What are the biggest challenges that you have, come across in that space, and then how have you tackled them?
Yes. So Yeah, so the other side of getting to a career and getting to graduate is that you have to have the right start. And if you don't have access, excuse me, to that right start, then you don't have the opportunity to get there. I think I want to tell you a little bit about how I ended up in early childhood, because I think a lot of people think of babies and wonderful ideas and wonderful things and think, oh, this is so, that profession that is so warm to my heart. I have a degree in finance, so I'm not a teacher. I ended up in early childhood because of that. I started in the nonprofit sector. I ended up with a master's in public administration eventually. And I was at the opposite of where your success has been. I'm the first one to graduate from college in my family out of 53 cousins. So I knew I had a long way to go to figure this out. So I started in the nonprofit sector after the business center at KUSA. And then I'm very curious and very interested in always figuring out what's going on at the other side. And the other side at that time was who's providing the funding. And that's how I ended up in philanthropy, because I wanted to be the one that was going to make the decisions of who was going to get funded, precisely because of what Helen said. I knew that the nonprofit organizations in my community and our communities of color were not getting the funding. And so I walked in those doors and was completely different than anybody in philanthropy. At that time, most of the people that were giving the money were older white males. And I look nothing like that. I don't sound like that. And I opened that door because I wanted to create that opportunity. It was my quest to figure out how do we do the most effective intervention to help people. And it was that quest that started with how do we help families, and I was helping women start their businesses or get jobs. Then it got me to working on opportunity youth and saying, how do we help those 16 to 24-year-olds that are being left out? And then it got me to, oh, you start younger. And eventually I figured out early childhood and thought, this is where the investment really matters. If you put a lot of money very early in that life, you cannot just help a little bit, you can shift a child from a poverty to middle class, and you shift the child, you shift the parent, you shift the whole community. So I came into early childhood from an investment perspective because I thought this is where you can make the greatest difference. And then spend my time convincing our foundation and my philanthropic friends that this is where the money needed to go. The biggest challenge that we have in early childhood is lack of funding. We think about education as being K to 12, but education starts from the minute that you're born. And if we're not investing, we all learn, that brain development starts very, very young. And we're not helping the parents that need access to that opportunity before they start kindergarten. So that's how I am at the Denver Preschool Program, because that is our mission. Get those children ready for school, but getting ready for life, which is the most important.
Thank you. Venetia, I'm curious from your perspective, what's the most special thing about Colorado? And then how have you had to adapt yourself to becoming the leader that you are to affect change in this unique landscape?
Yes, so first off, let me say that I love Colorado. I have been here now for 26 years. Actually, next month will be my 26th anniversary here in Colorado. There's lots of reasons why I love Colorado. The other reason, too, is that I met my husband 3 months after I got here, who's over there on that side there. He's looking like, why are you talking about me? But Colorado has been very good to me. One of the things that I found when I got here to Colorado was that the community was very warm. It was very welcoming. It was an innovative community. It was one that if you came with new ideas and you had suggestions and recommendations, people embraced that, and they wanted to learn more and determine how can we implement something that is really powerful and impactful within the community. And so that was an environment that really allowed me to thrive on a lot of different levels. So coming here to Colorado was, I think, transformational in a lot of different ways. When I came here with TIAA Craft, I was in a completely different role. than, of course, like what I'm in now, which is the nonprofit sector. But having the opportunities to continue to grow my career while I was there, because I spent almost 18 years there in that particular organization, and then in sales prior to that time in Manhattan. At the time when I started working many, many years ago, there were not a lot of people that looked like me in some of the industries that I was working in and doors that I was walking through, not only in terms of being an African American woman, being a woman, being African American, there were not a lot of people that looked like me in the roles that I was aspiring to. But one of the things that I also learned throughout my career is that as I was moving through and growing along the way, I had many different managers, many different leaders throughout my career. And I've learned something from every experience that I have had. Some experiences were not great, but I learned something from those. Some experiences were fantastic, and I learned something from those. One of the things that I was sharing recently is that I have documented what those things are, and I take that with me as I move into new roles. It's no accident that I'm at Mile High United Way today. It is an organization that speaks to me. I made the decision almost 12 years ago that it was time for me to leave the corporate sector, and I wanted to spend the last half of my career in the nonprofit sector doing things that I thought were really meaningful and that I thought I could spend my time really dedicating myself to the community for the next half of my career. And so all of the learnings that I had throughout my career, all of these things actually, they come together. And I have also learned that there are so many challenges within our community, and what can I do as an individual is not as great as what we can do collectively. Together. There are so many incredible organizations like you've just heard, and there are many more that are out there. What Mile High United Way allows us to do is to look at how do we work together, how do we bring the community together so that we can address some of the most pressing issues in our community. So when we think about our three main community priorities, what you will hear and what you've already heard is that our communities are giving all children a strong start, which is exactly what you're doing. It's supporting education and academic success, which speaks to me based upon what I shared previously in terms of the education and how important that is. And then our last community priority is creating economic opportunity for all, which also speaks to what Helen has just shared. So those are the things that really speak to me, and I believe it's no accident that I'm at Mile High United Way at this point in time, at where we are in our community, and what kinds of things we need to do in order to move people forward so everyone will have the opportunity to not only live in this great community, but to truly thrive.
So the next set of questions I want to ask you guys falls under DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, such buzzwords these days. But those of us in minority communities know that this umbrella, it doesn't even scratch the surface of the challenges and the needs of our communities. So Elsa, I'm going to start with you. How are you able to create prosperity for those who it's been out of reach, starting with education?
So I have been very lucky. I was smiling as I was sitting here and getting up to the table because one of my mentors was texting me, Anna Jo Haynes, and she was texting me and saying, "I love you. You can do this." So it's just so I have. So I think the way that I have learned so much from incredible mentors about DEI from a very different perspective, and I want to share this with you because I think is at my core of how I do my work. I was very lucky to connect with another mentor that passed away last year, Isabel Lopez, who was a trainer for the servant leadership. And as I was very young in my career figuring out how do you become a leader, I found Isabel, and I surround my life with amazing people. And she taught me about servant leadership, which made so much sense for me and my leadership and my approach to help communities. And what she taught me about servant leadership was, 4 principles that I really value. One of them was to make sure that, excuse me, I was honoring the people that work with me, that I was creating a vision that people can come around, that I was being authentic, and that I was serving with humility. And I have learned that over the years, that it's not about me, it's about the people that are around me and the people that I can help and the doors that I can open that makes the difference that happens. And so when I think about early childhood and the opportunities that we have in our community, this is what I do, is I have the opportunity to lead an amazing team at the Denver Preschool program to figure out not how do we change one life, but how do we change many lives and be able to create that equity that we feel it starts at a very, very early age. It is, our model is a national model on how we provide preschool. We provide tuition support to almost 5,000 children in Denver, 60% of all the 4-year-olds. We don't provide a little bit of support and a little bit of funding. We provide $850 per month was our average year-round last year, $1,100 for our highest needs. And then we come and help the parents figure out high-quality preschools. This model is the model that works. And we work with 3 and 4-year-olds. We help the state as they are creating a new Department of Early Childhood and a universal preschool. And this is the inequity that we see very early. We do it with a sliding scale so that the highest need get the highest level of support. And then we're able to come in and embrace those families to say, what are the other supports that they are going to need as we are developing the workforce. Because we have all the issues that Helen was talking about in early childhood workforce as well. And we also know the majority of our workforce in early childhood are women of color, primarily immigrants. So we have to work just as hard on the supply side as we do on the demand side to ensure that we have this. It is the most exciting part because it is a system that we're creating. It's not a program, it's a system, and that's how you shift it. It's how do you do a new system, not just how do you do a program.
Helen, talk to me a little bit about the importance of listening to community members, right? Not just those of the big pockets who can provide funding or board members, but the people you actually work with.
Right. Well, I think that understanding the life experience of those that are not experiencing prosperity that so many of us in the room enjoy is critical. And the best part of my work and my job for the last 6 years has been getting to know the stories and the life trajectory of the people that we're serving. So we are serving 65% people of color, mostly Black and Latino, at Activate Work. We serve 22 or 23% of our learners are immigrants and refugees, and of course, very dear to my heart. But 30% are women, and we have the knowledge and the understanding that life can start out really hard, and it can persist in being difficult. A lot of headwinds that people experience, whether it stems from the zip code that you're born in, the quality of the public school in your neighborhood, whether you were raised by a single parent, or whether you had 2 income earners in your family. All of these things then impact the future trajectory and people's success in work. So spending time getting to know our learners, their particular challenges, and then trying to figure out ways to solve those challenges and knock down the barriers. So I'll give you a couple of examples. For our immigrant and refugee population, it's really, really important to understand how you function in a professional, very intense type A IT environment. If you come from an African country or an Asian country where you're not encouraged to brag about yourself or to be assertive because you come from a communal culture with huge deference to authority, we need to train and educate our learners to know how to speak up, how to be assertive, and how to be successful in this different culture, in this environment. So understanding their needs, understanding the particular obstacles and barriers are a very, very critical and important part of what we do.
Benicia, a question for you. What, in your definition, is an inclusive leader, and how have you worked to make sure that you are that?
Yeah, I think that's an important question, because so often we hear the buzzword, right? Diversity, equity, inclusion. But what does that really mean? And sometimes we see statements around diversity, equity, and inclusion. But what I truly believe is, a statement is fine as a starting point, but until you get to the point where you're actually implementing that on a daily basis, both internally and externally throughout the community, then you haven't really reached what it means to be inclusive. Inclusivity includes, for me, making sure that everyone feels welcome, making sure that everyone has a seat at the table, making sure that everyone has a voice, and making sure that all people, no matter their background, no matter their experiences, no matter where they come from, that they know that they are part of a team, that they are part of this community. So in the work that I do and my team, some of them are here today, they do an amazing job of making sure that what we're doing externally, what we're doing internally, that these are the same things. Like, we can't look one way inside the organization, one way outside of the organization. We really need to be able to walk the walk. And you can talk the talk, but you have to walk the walk. That is extremely important, that everyone knows that if you're part of my team, I want to hear what you have to say. We have at Mile High United Way our parent councils. And our parent councils are aligned with the work that we're doing around early childhood education and around our United for Schools program. And what we have seen over the last couple of years is that is growing. More parents are wanting to become engaged. That is extremely important, because we can't create a program without actually knowing what people in the community actually want and need. So that's part of being inclusive. But I can't do that externally without making sure that internally we also are saying the same things to our employees and our staff members, that they feel like when they walk in the door, when we're on a Zoom call or a Teams call, that they can speak up and their voices are actually heard, that my door is always open, that we can have these kinds of conversations. And so all of that becomes extremely important when we start talking about inclusivity and what that actually means. So we've seen growth in our parent councils. We have seen throughout Mile High United Way with the programs that I'm overseeing, that since I've been there, we have grown 3 times the number of people that we're serving than where we were just 2 years ago. And I think part of that is that people have the opportunity to know that they're a part of this, and that this is not just something that Mile High United Way is doing, that we are there to support the community and make sure that they can thrive.
Well, on March 9th, one of these incredible leaders will officially be the 25th 9 News Leader of the Year, which is such an incredible milestone. So in conclusion, and some final words, I want to hear from each of you of what you think and hope your legacy is going to be on the state of Colorado.
Well, I have lived in Colorado for 37 years. I love this state. I believe one of the things that makes Colorado unique is that we are a community of goodwill. We are a community that loves our neighbor, and I believe that we have the desire to help others. I believe at the same time that we need to catalyze that goodwill in Colorado so that we break down the barriers that are creating inequity and not enabling people to achieve their fullest potential. I would like my legacy to stem out of creating the Colorado Inclusive Economy Movement, which I launched during COVID when I was curious about how the pandemic would impact the people of color and the communities that we serve. I did some research on past economic shocks, and no surprise, people of color get hit first and hardest during economic shocks, and they recover slowest, if ever, from natural catastrophes and economic shocks. And I thought, we're about to face this global pandemic, a once-in-a-century event. I do not want to see us rush back to business as usual and make a mad dash to profitability and forget that people of color are being impacted the hardest and most significantly. So I wanted to launch a movement and a challenge and a call and an inspiration to Colorado leaders, the CEOs who hold the resources, and challenge them and invite them to rebuild this time with racial equity, diversity, and inclusion as their primary goal and not as an afterthought. And so now we have 130 CEOs, some of whom are in the room, who have taken the challenge and the call to say, we want to build a Colorado of shared opportunity for people of color. There's nothing like this in the nation. And I believe that we have the opportunity to create real system change and create opportunity for people so they can live out their fullest potential regardless of where they're born, regardless of the color of their skin. So the legacy that I hope to leave is one of igniting and catalyzing the Colorado community to be a community in which each person can really achieve their fullest potential.
Oh, that's beautiful. Question for me, huh? Okay, so in terms of my legacy, when I think about that, I actually think that it should be something where life is different as a result of me being here, that things are better as a result of me being here. So that's in a broad sense, but also in terms of like the organizations that I've been a part of, the both organizations that I may volunteer with, as well as those that I have a formal role in, that when I leave, something should be different. There should be something that's noticeable that has changed in a positive way, because you can change things in a different kind of way, but something that's positive as a result of me being there. And as I look back on different organizations that I've been a part of or roles that I have had throughout my career, I can point to a couple of things that are different as a result of me being there, that are positive, that there have been organizations that I have developed and nurtured and created and that are still like thriving today, both locally, nationally, and internationally. And as a result of that, there is a legacy that's there with that particular initiative. And then, as I think about other things that I may have done, I realize that, of course, like I haven't done these things by myself. It takes a team of people. Some people say like it takes a village. And I look at it as part of my role is to inspire others to think about what can I do to help support the community? What can I do from the lens that I have and where I am in terms of my responsibilities and my role? And if I can say to others, like, here is a space where you can help to develop and strengthen our community from the lens that you have. And I have seen that like throughout different roles that I've had. When I left TIA-CREF, we went from not having a volunteer program to over 65% of our employees actually volunteering at the corporate initiatives that we have put in place. And I had the pleasure of someone texting me on LinkedIn and telling me I'm still involved with this organization that you introduced me to over 12 years ago. Those are the kinds of things that I think about in terms of legacy. It's sometimes tangible, sometimes it's intangible, but at the end of the day, it's something that when we leave this earth, it should be better than the way it was when we got here. And all of us can play a role in that. Every one of us has a responsibility to make the world a better place. And it requires all of us to make sure that this Colorado community, if you don't like something, then get involved and let's change it. right? So it's those kinds of things that I would like to see in terms of my legacy, is that people are inspired to do something and make an impact to leave the world a better place.
Well, I'm a bit of a social entrepreneur, and in addition to the business center, I have created several organizations like the Latino Community Foundation, which is doing amazing work in the community, or Early Milestones Colorado, or some of the other organizations, probably quite a few, that I love to create. So, but I can't help and think about our young leaders that are here. And it's easy to sit here and say, I was able to do that. I am thinking about a story that I wrote for my daughters, and my daughter is sitting right here. I wrote for my daughters that I called, and I wrote with one of my mentors about feeling butterflies in my stomach. And I said, that feeling when you're like, your heart is pounding and your hands are sweating, you're thinking, what am I doing here? Why am I speaking up? Why am I doing these things? And I learned to recognize that, and I was telling my daughters, recognize that feeling, because when you have that feeling, that's when you are having courage and you're growing. That's when you're ready to go through that transformation, where you're going to say, I'm going to speak up. I'm going to be bold. They're going to tell me no, and I'm going to have to come back and say it again. And that's when you're going to be able to make that change happen. And so for me, it's about courage. The courage to say, you can do it. Nobody's sitting here saying, oh, we figured it out. We all went through all these stages, went through all these spaces. And so if I want to talk about my legacies, I hope you can see what an immigrant with an accent that had to figure out how to navigate this country with being the eldest of 7, living in the housing projects, what you can do when you step up and say, I can make this happen. And I also want to remind you, I think in the Brené Brown idea of being vulnerable, that's what vulnerable is about, is having the courage to do that. But when you have the courage to speak up for those ones that cannot be in the room, that don't have a voice, the children that are not here, when you can speak on their behalf and you can open that door, that's when you're being a servant leader. And I hope that that's what all of us can do, that we can all be the servant leaders that are opening those doors and speaking on behalf of the ones that don't have a voice.
Aren't they incredible? Before we wrap up this section, we want to invite some audience questions. Does anybody have a question for our incredible leaders? Yes. You can just project.
No, Richard from the DPS Foundation.
Nope.
What can Colorado show or teach the rest of the country or the world in terms of how can we solve big social problems?
I'm going to repeat the question for our audience at home. And what's your name?
Richard.
Richard asked, what can Colorado show the rest of the world in terms of solving social problems? Anyone want to take that question? Yeah,
I'll take it because I am so excited that we're in the midst of a project that I'm not the only one. As we said, several of us have been working on. We've been working on this idea of the early childhood system for the last 30 years. Many of you are here, and you know what we went through over the years. And we had lots of conversations and lots of meetings with a lot of mayors and governors to go and say, we need to create a new Department of Early Childhood in Colorado. And we were told, no, there's only one spot left to have a department in Colorado, and because we only can have 20, at that point they have to change the Constitution. And I thought, great, this is going to not happen. So we were told over and over now, here is what Colorado can show. We have a new Department of Early Childhood today. We're working on creating a brand new department that is consolidating funding for universal preschool and bringing all the programs together. Colorado is now at the forefront of what not just Colorado needs to do, what the country needs to do. We need a Department of Early Childhood at the national level. We need universal preschool for all our kids. We need to support the families from 0 to 5, and we're showing them how to do it. We got there. It is the most exciting adventure that we're all in. Just think, how do you create a new department? How do you start from the very beginning? We're going like this through this process, but it's the most exciting thing that we have done. And I think we're there. Colorado can show how do you work in early childhood.
Can I take a stab at that? I actually think that we have a huge opportunity in Colorado. One, we, as I mentioned, we're a community of goodwill, but I also think that we have one of those rare intersections of government, of nonprofit, of education, and importantly of the business community. And I believe that, for example, workforce, Colorado is one of the leading states for getting credentialing, such as the type of IT credentialing we provide at Activate Work, into the hands of more individuals. So this is something that Governor Polis is really passionate about, just pushing that education, that credentialing into the 70% of Coloradans who don't have the college degree.
Right.
We are shining a beacon and proving models that can work in Colorado. For example, in our next 5 years, we're going to train over 1,000 people in Activate Work, and we're going to generate over $50 million in incremental income for our learners. When we can replicate this, and if we don't take no for an answer, and we just keep on, keeping on, I believe that we can solve inequity in our lifetime. We can do it if we never, ever, ever give up.
That's good. Any other questions? Okay. I think that concludes the panel. Thank you guys so much.
What do y'all do?
You're incredible. Thank you. Thank you.
So we talked about strategic, innovative, and visionary as we described the 3 finalists here. And hearing these stories of their journey, I think we all have to also add inspirational for all 3 of them. I'm ready tomorrow. I don't know what I need to take on, but they talk me into doing something. If I, something, and if everyone wants to raise their hand, who wants to do something new tomorrow to get involved, one way or the other? They are a perfect example of how we strengthen Colorado one leader at a time. They definitely are. So thank you all so very, very much. Let's give them one more round of applause. Alexandra, I know you didn't take off too fast. I know she runs right to the back because she's always in the front. Thank you so much again for being here with us. Our student leader of the years, the finalists, again, if I can have the 3 of them stand. One of them, I'm sure, will be in one of those seats here in, I don't know, maybe 2 years, 5 years, something. As always, we want to make sure we thank our sponsors who make this work happen. So thank all of you. We won't list you or go through the names, but we've already talked about that. But they're extremely important to this process. So thank you all very, very much. And quickly, I want to talk about some of the individuals that really helped make this happen behind the scenes. Really, a lot of those from the internal side here, including the Chamber's Leadership Foundation staff, the communications and marketing team from the Chamber, and also the operational team who really helped in terms of putting this together to work with our media partner, 9 News. They do such a tremendous job. And in conjunction with that, I want to make sure to do a special thank you to Barefoot PR, who has really been our trusted partner in sort of really putting this all together. They like to stay quietly behind the scenes, but they've been just wonderful. A special thank you out to 9 News team and all the viewers on 9 News for watching our event. This group's been here since 1 o'clock. They asked for some food. I said no, not till everything is set up. They asked could they have some water. I said no. They wanted to go to the restroom. I said no. But now that they've done this tremendous job and you've seen this, let's give them a warm round too. So listen, the voting for the 9 News Leader of the Year will officially open tomorrow. You can vote by visiting the link on our website. And remember, only 1 vote per person. And don't worry if you think you still will sneak through. Our systems will catch us, so don't worry about that. Any one of the 3 will be great. This will go on all the way up leading to March 9th, where we will announce live our 9 News Leader of the Year, the 25th anniversary, and we're looking forward to this. If we can continue the celebration, let's all go down to the 4th floor to the Molson Coors tap room and get a chance to meet the students. We really want to make sure you're meeting them and also the 9 News Leader of the Year finalists. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it.